away. 24/7 support, holistic care, family first focus. That's healthcare at your service. Call or text Dr. Trey at PEDSMD at 980-983-0643.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
Hello and welcome to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. You hit it the 4 o'clock hour on a Thursday. If you're a 9 to 5er, you got 53 minutes, 23 seconds until we hit that 5 o'clock bell. And I appreciate so much you spending that time with us here as we give attention to all things economic, financial. Boy, we got a lot on our plate today. Lots happening out there, lots of news. I guess you could say every week I'm saying the same thing. That's fair. I mean, I get excited about this kind of stuff. I hope you get a little bit excited about it too as we're talking about what's happening around us, those kinds of things which are influencing our financial decisions, the kinds of things we need to keep in mind in order to make sure that we're making good and prudent plans. But in doing so, you remember, as a previous listener to Dollars and Cents here, that nothing that we're talking about here is intended as a specific recommendation for you, meaning that even though we're going to be going through things that are very specific, company-related, investment-related, we're going to be looking at some things in a more positive light, maybe some things in a more negative light. Again, in doing so, everybody's situation is unique. We strongly, strongly recommend you reach out to your tax advisor, your financial advisor, or if you'd like to reach out to us at North Main Financial Group, love to hear from you. Love to chat about your particular financial situation, see if there are ways in which we might be able to be helpful to you. Online, you can find us at northmainfinancial.com. That's north like the direction, Main like the street. Financial.com, northmainfinancial.com. We have a contact page on there. Leave us an email address, phone number. Let us know if you'd like a text message. My staff says I got to say that with greater regularity. A lot of folks just communicate by text. So I got to say that as well. Definitely we can do that also. Again, on there at northmainfinancial.com. You're also welcome to call us here in the studio. Producer Bill here with me today. He'll take your call. I can't promise I'm going to get to your subject matter as part of today's show because we're jam-packed in terms of what we have, but let us know your question. Can't speak to specifics, you know that. Can't give you very personal recommendations, but if there are certain things that are dotting your headlines or you just want to talk about some things that are pertinent relative to the financial space, maybe talking into markets, always happy to do that. 844-STUDIO-4. That's 844-788-3464. That's 844-788-3464. And one more time, 844-788-3464 here in the studio. All right, let's keep going. We've got a big, big day here. I would be remiss, though, especially considering the date that it is today. I would be remiss if we didn't have a moment of remembrance. And I know that others here on this radio station and I'm sure on radio stations, television stations throughout the country today are remembering that 24 years ago, as of this day, September the 11th, where we had the huge tragedy in New York, in Washington, D.C., and in the hills of Pennsylvania. And it would be remiss if I moved on from that too quickly, as I was literally doing the same things that I'm doing today. I was happened to be actually, interestingly enough, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, not too far from where one of the planes that came down. It's about an hour, maybe an hour and a half east of Pittsburgh, and just remembering that day. Now, one of the things that I recall, it's not funny, but I just recall it because it was such a vivid occasion to remember. Is that I had a big desktop computer with a big monitor on my desk, and I was doing what I was usually doing that time in the morning, going through the Wall Street Journal, yes, in hard copy, not on an iPad or anything else. And I always had the various news outlets' websites on my desktop there, and I remember very distinctly that as I was flipping through the various news sites, CNN was one of them that I always checked in to see what news was flashing across the screen. And I remember vividly the report that was on my desktop monitor screen that showed that the first airplane had hit, and actually just before the second airplane had hit, the CNN website literally crashed. And my understanding is that it was due to the volume of folks who were trying to access the website at literally the same time. I'm sure they were hearing and seeing the same things that I was, but I remember that screen being frozen on my desktop there because the website had crashed. And So many memories, so many recollections. Certainly, if you had remembrance of that or a personal connectivity to it in some way, I know very, very significant for you, but significant for all of us to remember those lives lost and to remember those families who remain, whose lives were irrevocably changed in that day. And so we remember that. And I know that there have been so many remembrances around the country, not only in New York, but right here in Cornelius and in Huntersville and in Davidson and around the Charlotte region as well, very appropriately so, as we remember those lives lost on that tragic and fateful day. So thank you for allowing me for that big day as we think about those kinds of things. And I wanted to mention that before we get into the nuts and bolts. So I mean, one of the other things that was true, just as we provide a little bit of a segue, the markets were closed for 2 weeks. 2 weeks during that time for understandable reasons, but never in our history had the markets been closed for that amount of time. And that was, I mean, there were so many things that we had to keep in mind. The markets were not nearly as consequential, obviously, as the significant and massive loss of life in that time. But it was something to experience in terms of, how are the markets going to open? What's it going to look like? How do we get back to the day-to-day activity in some measure, shape, or form? And at a certain point, after I know that there were so many discussions and so much consideration on how that was going to do that, I think at a certain point it was, let's just turn on the lights and fire up the monitors and just get at it and see where things are going to land. And it was messy. It was an ugly time in the markets for a notable measure of time, but they did eventually resettle, and they were on their ways and functioning in normal ways eventually. And but still a very tumultuous time. So big deal when we're thinking about our history, and I appreciate again you allowing me to share that with you. But let's go ahead and get into it here. I got to bring up a big company that I know is. I mean, it's got to be right up there with Coca-Cola and with Microsoft in terms of the brand recognition. It's got to be right up there with most, the Dallas Cowboys or the Boston Celtics or any number of other entities that are just so well known branding wise. Yeah, I'm looking at you, Apple. Apple, ticker symbol Alpha, Paul, Larry. I'm bringing it up not because of their earnings report, but because of the story. I think they mentioned this on Good Morning LKN as well. And which, by the way, if you're not listening to Good Morning LKN, Monday to Friday, 7 to 9, Justin, Bill, Mamie, opportunity to not only to hear about important things that are happening in and around our Lake Norman region, but probably make you chuckle as well. So make sure you're doing that on Monday to Friday at 7 to 9 in the morning. I know they were talking about it, looking at Apple, the $2,000 iPhone. I mean, my goodness, $2,000 for one of these smartphones. I mean, it was inevitable. I mean, I guess at some level that we were going to get to a space. I remember when it crossed 1,000, I thought, gosh, that's crazy. And then, to Apple's credit and the cell phone company's credit, they said, well, you don't have to pay for the iPhone all up front. We're going to finance it for you. We'll do it in monthly installments over the course of a couple of years. And then as soon as you have that one paid off, we'll have another one ready for you. We'll have the next iteration, the next model ready for you. So the iPhone 17 Pro Max with the 2 terabit. I don't even know what terabits are. We'll talk about it more in this next segment, though. Appreciate you listening to us here on Dollars and Cents on WSIC.
Make no mistake.
Did you say steak?
We'll be back to talk more finances and food on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial on WSIC. Local starts here.
Well, we have officially once again entered that sweater in the morning and regret it in the afternoon season. Get warmer, partly cloudy, temperatures get up into the mid-80s for our Thursday afternoon. We'll go back comfy and cool tonight around the lake as temperatures go down to around 60, but we'll warm up each afternoon through the upcoming weekend into those low mid-80s and look to stay dry for a while. That's your forecast. For the WSIC Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. Score designer deals Tuesday through Sunday this week at the Green Jeans Consignment Sale, now at 601 Milestone Venue in Concord, formerly the Buy Low Center. It's fashion, fun, and major savings. Visit greenjeanssale.com. The 500 Club in Statesville presents the Thirsty Thursdays tournament on September 11th at 5:30 p.m. Click on the 500 Club online for more information on events, golf lessons, club memberships, and tee times. The annual Bands, Brews, and Barbecue Festival, presented by Dobotech, returns to Mooresville on Saturday. The celebration of music, beer, and barbecue begins at 4 p.m. across downtown and Liberty Park. Over 20 barbecue trucks will be on hand. The B3 Beer Garden will be open with a selection of craft beers from local and regional breweries. Ghostface Brewing will have a special brew with proceeds benefiting the U.S. Olympic bobsled team. The music lineup features Dial-Up Radio, Starship, and Night Ranger. Bands, Brews, and Barbecue is Saturday in Mooresville. The NHRA 4-Wide Carolina Nationals happens at ZMAX Dragway September 19th through the 21st. This is the only 4-wide race in the countdown to the championship. Every ticket is a pit pass, giving fans unmatched access to the drivers and crews who power the NHRA's thunderous 11,000 horsepower machines to their limits. Click on charlottemotorspeedway.com for tickets and information about the NHRA 4-Wide Carolina Nationals at the Bellagio of drag strips. Stay up to date and find out about local events, job opportunities, real estate information, and more. Visit liveworkplaylkn.com and sign up for the weekly newsletter. That's liveworkplaylkn.com.
N110, upscale and elegant, but never pretentious. Over 500 whiskeys, 100 wines, craft cocktails, and crave-worthy small bites. Live music plus monthly comedy nights and tastings. Post your next event at N110, located at 19712 One Norman Boulevard in Cornelius.
From market trends to retirement plans, Joshua Dobi has you covered. We're back with more Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial on WSIC. Local starts here.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here into the second quarter of today's show. Yeah, it's a blatant football reference. You know we talk football here on Dollars and Cents, especially because it's football season. Now, I have to make a confession here, because one of the things that you hear me say with relentless regularity here, usually in the second segment of Dollars and Cents, when it's the off season, is you hear me say something akin to the fact that our beloved Carolina Panthers are in exactly the same space probability-wise to win the Super Bowl as every other team in the NFL. And, of course, I'm referring to that usually during the offseason. I would like to say that as a result of going through week one, that our Carolina Panthers are in an increased probability of winning the Super Bowl. However, that would not be the case. So I'm going to move very quickly beyond that and say something that we often like to say here at WSIC when it comes to our beloved Carolina Panthers, in that it is early, still early in the season. One game does not define a season. I'm saying that to all of you. I read a lot of negativity this past week on a lot of you, let me call you just arm's length fans. I mean, you can't be jumping off the wagon at this point. We had one game. All right, it wasn't as inspiring as perhaps we would hope that it would have been. That's one game. It's a long season. It's early, folks. I don't want you jumping off the bandwagon yet. Hang with us here. We got to see what's going to happen. You never know how things are going to shake out. Along the lines of the Carolina Panthers, we're going to talk about something that we also love to talk about here for just a few moments, and that is food. Now, we usually don't talk food until we get to the third segment, but I figure if we're going to be talking football here in the second segment, it would be entirely appropriate to talk about football food. There you go. We're going to start getting some alliterations here to go right into the show. And talking specifically about the new offerings that the Carolina Panthers at Bank of America Stadium are offering for this coming year. They even had a little display, and I took this right from the Charlotte Business Journal, from the CBJ, talking about the preview of the food. I was also deeply concerned, sidebar here, deeply concerned that I did not receive an invitation to that particular event, because that would have been fantastic, no pun intended, to have attended something like that, to have seen and perhaps even partaken of some of the new offerings that the Bank of America Stadium, by the way, the concessions, run by Levy Restaurants. Levy owned by a group called Compass Group, UK firm. They're not traded here in the U.S. They're traded overseas on the London Exchange. So they are publicly traded there, but are not traded here. So Levy Restaurants that manages the process. I got to go through a couple of these here because I mean I was reading them and just like pretty much happens all the time when I start reading about food, started getting hungry as I was reading it. But some of the new things that they have here, I mean, impressive stuff. Now, not cheap. Not going to pretend that these are inexpensive kinds of things, but a barbecue platter with pork, chicken, sausage, and sides. I mean, greens, macaroni, and cheese. Wow. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's the music of heaven. Producer Bill's exactly right. I mean, when I read that, I thought, golly, does that sound amazing? Now you gotta be prepared for that cost wise. I mean, it doesn't come cheap when you're looking at that kind of thing, especially at Bank of America Stadium. But boy, that just might be worth it. Pork sausage, and all the sides, pork sausage, chicken, and all the sides. Next one here, and I thought this was great. I mean, they're definitely trying to tap into some of the local flavor. Literally, here the Carolina Cuban sandwich. Now, the reason why they're calling it the Carolina Cuban sandwich, they got Mount Olive pickles and Duke's mayo. Now, I know, don't, before I've talked about it on here that Duke's mayo is no longer locally owned. I get it. But it's Duke's mayo. That's all you got to know. That's all we're going to talk about right now. Duke's mayo, Mount Olive pickles on a Carolina Cuban sandwich. Sign me up. I'm ready for it. And then the last, oh no, yeah, it is the last one that I have on my list here, also with a distinctively local flavor here. I thought this was great. I haven't really thought about this, but the whole sweet, tangy combination with what I'm going to say next, it makes sense. Cheerwine, barbecue, chicken, nachos. Now, every single word in there, all four of those words, I'm in for it. Cheerwine, absolutely. Barbecue, we live in Carolina, of course, barbecue. Chicken, absolutely. And nachos, which might be one of the major food groups, at least insofar as I'm concerned. But you put all those together, Cheerwine, barbecue, chicken, nachos, absolutely sign me up for that. I mean, I'm just saying it right here, and I'm ready to eat. But it is amazing. They got some new stuff over there at Bank of America Stadium. So even if you go in and the Panthers are having a bad day, your belly's still going to be full if you decide to partake of any of those items there, and that certainly sounds good to me. But we are into football season. There's no doubt about that. We have kicked off, no pun intended, both the college season and the pro season. We got Thursday night NFL coming on tonight. And I mean, basically, once you get to Thursday, it's Thursday through Monday. I mean, very interesting. I just find this an interesting sidebar. Tuesday and Wednesday, usually where we don't have big time college football games, but every once in a while, we'll get some late night ESPN college football on Tuesdays or Wednesdays as well. Probably for an opportunity to be on television for those teams, but we got NFL tonight on the big screen, so make sure you're taking a look at that. All right, let's keep pivoting here. We got another big company. Some interesting data, especially considering, well, several different things. I'm going to look at it macro, I'm going to look at it micro, but I'm going to start with this company first. It's Stellantis. Now, Stellantis may or may not be a name that is familiar to you. This is actually a company based in Europe, and it is an amalgamation or a conglomerate, if you will, of a whole bunch of different brands. But specifically here in the U.S., think about them as being the old Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, meaning that we had here. Now, it's not that you don't still see Dodge, Chrysler, and Jeep here in the U.S., but it's actually owned by a group, Stellantis, publicly traded here in the U.S. Ticker symbol Sam, Tom, Larry, Alpha. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the debt or the equity for this company. And what I'm looking at specifically, I'm looking at Jeep. And specifically, I'm looking at the Jeep Wrangler. So we're getting a little micro here. Jeep Wrangler, for a while there, was one of the most popular vehicles that were being sold. I mean, you would go to some Jeep lots, especially with the new car dealership. I mean, you couldn't even find one, or if you found one, it wasn't the one that certainly that you wanted. So you had to order it, and it was months of backlog to get the car that you wanted. Well, a very interesting data. Let me call it collection that was made by by Bloomberg. Actually, it was actually posted by Bloomberg, talking about the steep decline in Jeep sales here over the last 4 years to the tune of about 30%. Net income for Stellantis in the last 2 years down about 50%. The share price of Stellantis. So I just talked about STLA, the ticker symbol. Again, not a recommendation on them in any way. Down about 60%. Here in the last 18 months. A very, very interesting. Now, there are a lot of other macro factors involved here as well. There are significant things because I've continued to read a number of data collections about the piling up of auto loans, and not only in terms of the balances that are out there, because of course vehicles are so much more significantly expensive, but also in the number ones that are going into default, those ones which are more than 90 days past due, where no payments have been made. Folks, we're hitting all-time highs. I mean, we are north of 20% now of ones that are delinquent, and meaning those that are 30, and then those that are in default more than 90 days. We are now in the high single digits on that. And that, it doesn't sound like a huge number. Folks, that's a huge number when we're talking about auto loan default. So it's becoming more of an issue all of the time. It's certainly something that's on our radar screen because it speaks into what the strength of the consumer is. I mean, if the consumer is not paying their car loan, that's a very big issue. That's indicative of financial stress. That's something that outside of making their rent payment or their mortgage payment is going to be pretty close to the top of the sheet in terms of the things that they need to keep up current in order to be able to function, get to work, manage life, all of those kinds of things. So when you see a climbing number of loan defaults for auto loans, that tends to be a negative sign. Now, is it mean that all things are crashing and all things are coming to an end? No, of course not. There is no binary kind of relationship at all in any kind of economic data or one specific economic variable point, but it is a big one. It is a very big one, and we've been talking about this now for the better part of a year. Meaning this is not just a unique kind of thing. I happen to mention about the Jeep Wrangler specifically because it was such an incredibly popular vehicle. I mean, just for perspective. Now I know there are a lot of aftermarket things you can do with the Jeep Wrangler, and that's a whole industry in and of itself. You know, once you actually buy the Jeep Wrangler to do all kinds of aftermarket upgrades with it, big tires and all kinds of other things that you can do with it, you can very easily spend, you could still do this, but you can very easily spend on a Jeep Wrangler, you can spend $100,000 easily. It's not like, wow, there's only one of those or some celebrity or sports figure that, no. I mean, that you can very easily do that. So it really morphed from being, well, I mean, the original Jeep Wrangler was basically an adaptation of the old Willie J. Army vehicle that was out there, and it became a status symbol. It became just an incredibly popular kind of automobile to own. And now we've seen some significant cooling off there. And again, I'm drawing that more into the macro, talking about where auto loans are right now, what the strength of the consumer is right now. It's a concern. I'll tell you, it's high on our radar screen at North Main because we're watching that to see if there are any other corollary kind of data points which are lining up next to it to indicate that the consumer is slowing down. Because, newsflash, remember, the consumer is approximately 2/3 to 3/4 of our overall economy, meaning as the consumer goes, so we go, economically speaking. So if the consumer is slowing down dramatically, that's going to have a big impact on us economically. So a big deal when we're thinking about the kinds of things that are affecting us from an economic standpoint. And we're going to be keeping it on our radar screen, certainly, as we come into additional spaces. I want to talk quickly, just before we go to break here, PepsiCo, PEP, Paul Edward Paul, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the debt or the equity on that. Very interesting. They have what's called an activist investor, Elliott Management, very prominent in the activist investor space, where they come in, buy a significant portion of the stock, and then try to make some changes, usually on the board or with policy, or they try to break up the company, divide it into pieces. Looks like that's what they may be doing with Pepsi. We're going to be watching that as well. But before that, we're going to hear from our sponsors. We're going to take a little break here. Come back in a few seconds. Thanks for hanging with us here on Dollars and Cents.
Make no mistake.
Did you say steak?
We'll be back to talk more finances and food on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial on WSIC. Local starts here.
Well, we have officially once again entered that sweater in the morning and regret it in the afternoon season. Get warmer. Partly cloudy. Temperatures get up into the mid-80s for our Thursday afternoon. We'll go back comfy and cool tonight around the lake as temperatures go down to around 60, but we'll warm up each afternoon through the upcoming weekend into those low mid-80s and look to stay dry for a while. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Hi,
This is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
This is Sheriff Darren Campbell with the Iredell County Sheriff's Office. Every day, scammers are targeting people right here in our community through phone calls, emails, and text messages, trying to steal your money, your personal information, and even your identity. If someone calls claiming to be from a government, a bank, or even law enforcement demanding money or personal details, stop and think. Legitimate organizations will never ask for gift cards, wire transfers, or your passwords over the phone or email. If something sounds too good to be true, it usually is. Hang up, don't click that link, and never share personal information with someone you don't trust. At the Iredell County Sheriff's Office, we're working to protect our community, and we're proud to partner with WSIC because local starts here, and keeping you informed keeps you safe. Stay alert, stay smart, and don't fall for a scam.
Yeehaw for rodeo season at Harrison's, the home of work, western, and wow. Whether you compete or cheer from the stands, Harrison has the looks to help you wow the crowd. Get western classics and the latest styles from Harriet, Cinch, Rock and Roll Denim, and Wrangler. Find us in Mooresville.
Inspire your team and gallop to greatness. Our horses at Willow Equine are outstanding at working with people on leadership and team building skills, perfect for corporate retreats. Visit willowequine.com as you gallop to greatness.
Jay White here from Central Carolina Realty. We're right in the center of North Carolina, and we put you at the center of everything we do. If you're selling a home, buying a home, or adding doors to your rental portfolio, put the team at Central Carolina Realty to work for you. Go to centralcarolinarealty.com and let's get started.
Hey folks, you know Randy Marion is the king of price when it comes to buying a new vehicle or a pre-owned vehicle, but how about king of price when it comes to the service department? Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville, Randy Marion Ford Lincoln in Statesville has you covered on tires, brakes, batteries, wipers, you name it. Any service you need on your vehicle, regardless of the make or model, come see Randy Marion Chevrolet in Statesville Service Department or Randy Marion Ford Lincoln Service Department today.
I'll be honest, I wanted to be a diva. Why feel guilty? Let me help you be a diva for a few hours a week. Yes, I'm Andrea, owner of Spotless Cleaning. Our guarantee? It is very special. If you're unhappy, we'll do it again. Still unhappy? Your fee is donated to a charity of your choice. The Docinho de Coco Guarantee. To honor my grandparents, who taught me both a spotless house and time to live life big are important. Spotless Cleaning and C.com.
Swing for hope at the Next Chapter Station Golf Classic on September 22nd at the 500 Club in Statesville to help bring hope and comfort to children fighting cancer. Your support helps us deliver the book Luke and the Lost Bell to 1,000 hospitals. For more information, visit nextchapterstation.org.
Is your to-do list overwhelming? DIY gone awry? From leaky faucets, squeaky doors, and rooms in need of a makeover, House Doctors of Mooresville handles it all. Free estimates, quality materials, and a 1-year guarantee. We fix it, you relax. Visit housedoctors.com/Mooresville.
Friendly reminder, don't break when you see the lake.
WSIC. Local starts here.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. A mega media merger could be in the works. Sources tell Bloomberg Paramount Skydance, just taken over by filmmaker David Ellison, is looking to buy Warner Brothers Discovery. The deal, if it does happen, would combine companies with some of the most recognizable movies and TV shows and give Paramount 2 giant studio lots in Southern California. The Federal Trade Commission is asking 7 AI chatbot companies to provide information on how they safeguard children and teens from potentially negative impacts from their chatbot interactions. The FTC is warning those chatbots can mimic human characteristics while communicating, like a friend or a confidant. OpenAI has already promised to look at its ChatGPT to see how it handles sensitive situations after a lawsuit alleged the chatbot contributed to a teen suicide. We're seeing a rally today on Wall Street. Markets are up between 0.7% and 1.3%. I'm Nancy Lyons, Bloomberg Radio.
The button pushing stops here.
WSIC. Local starts here. From market trends to retirement plans, Joshua Dobi has you covered. We're back with more Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial on WSIC. Local starts here.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. You're in the second half at this point, football reference of today's show. And as we do, we talk some anecdotal things here. And I've always thought about that. Well, it's dollars and cents, and we're talking about the economy, and we're talking about the Federal Reserve, we're talking about stock markets and bond markets and commodities and all that good kind of stuff. But we do try to keep it a little bit anecdotal here periodically. Because I could go through, I could give you about 40 earnings reports right now. I am fearful to death that I might lose you after about, 92, 93, maybe 94 seconds into what we're doing. So we try to shake it up here a little bit. So we talk a little football, we talk a little food. We like talk food here in the third quarter, right after the halftime intermission there. I got to bring up, we've talked about this company previously, and they've gone through some challenges. And when I say challenges, I'm talking bankruptcy. And they're currently in the reorganization process. So it's a reorganization bankruptcy, not a liquidation bankruptcy. So it's Chapter 11, not 7 kind of thing. And I'm looking at you, Red Lobster. Yes, I am. Now, they are coming through the bankruptcy process. So obviously no equity, no bonds being traded with that particular entity right now. But if you recall, one of the things that really, unfortunately, turbocharged them in the wrong direction was the all-you-can-eat shrimp special that they advertised, promoted heavily, and literally got, I'm going to cliche it, but it actually holds true, got eaten out of house and home. Literally, they had so many folks show up that ate so much shrimp that they were not only, they were had supply issues, but they even changed the nature of the shrimp market. They were buying so much of it that they couldn't make any money. The prices were going up. They couldn't make any money, even though they were charging about $23, $24, $25 for the all-you-can-eat. Well, they have come out with a new special, Red Lobster has. And don't get excited, it is not all-you-can-eat. But they still wanted to tap into, I think, part of the market. So maybe not the folks who are going to eat great volumes of shrimp, but they definitely wanted to tap back into that market a little bit. And so they got a $15.99 special. So actually, the idea is that it's less expensive, significantly less expensive than the all-you-can-eat shrimp. Obviously, it's not all you can eat, but they're giving you 3 kinds of shrimp to do it. So they're enticing you in that way. So if you're a Red Lobster fan, and especially if you're a Red Lobster shrimp fan, which seems a little bit ironic to say that out loud, but 3 different kinds of shrimp with their $15.99 special: shrimp scampi, shrimp Alfredo, linguine Alfredo, and then popcorn shrimp. So if you're a one who really enjoys that kind of thing, you can head on over to Red Lobster. Fewer locations now. A number of them have closed as a result of the bankruptcy reorganization through which they're going. It's going to be very interesting to see. So I bring that up because I like to talk about food, but also it's going to be very interesting to see how and in what ways they eventually reemerge out of bankruptcy, and how many stores they're going to have, restaurants specifically, and what their menu is going to look like, because they're obviously they got to get rid of a lot of the stuff that put them into bankruptcy in the first place, specifically their menu and their pricing, and obviously they got to drive more traffic into their individual restaurants. Going to be very interesting to see as that takes its shape. Looking locally again here, we talked about the Carolina Panthers there, and we were talking about some of the food offerings that they have here. But I want to look locally again. I should say locally again, not just to our immediate towns here, but generally regionally speaking. And I'm looking at Foxcroft. At Foxcroft Wine, they have a location right over the hill here at Burkdale Village, and now they have a couple of other locations as well in our region. But kind of interesting, they're making the pivot. This was reported on by, again, the Charlotte Business Journal, the CBJ, and talking about how they're changing their name, and so they're going to be changing their branding to not just Foxcroft Wine, but to Foxcroft Food and Wine. And it's a relatively nominal change as far as the nomenclature is concerned, but big ramifications in terms of what their emphasis is going to be. And specifically, they're going to get into the full-service food business. So very interesting. What I would describe casually, and by the way, love Foxcroft, been there a number of times, enjoy their wines immensely, and the atmosphere and being there at Burkdale Village, but they're also going to add more full-service wine options. So they had finger food, cold plate kinds of things there that they had previously, but now they're going to be expanding. and they're changing their name and their branding to be reflective of that. So it's going to be very interesting to see. A big step for them. Wish them all the best in doing that as well. And just in case you're wondering, yes, I will make sure, as I feel it is my civic responsibility to make sure that they're doing a good job. Chances are I'll be frequenting it maybe even more frequently than I have frequented in the past there to indulge in some of those kinds of things, and looking forward to it. All right, let's keep going here. Going to bring up a big name so I'm pivoting on from food here, getting back into the market mix, if you will. Big name, big move. Market definitely wasn't expecting it. This one, and it caught me by surprise as well. I got to put myself in the same mix, and I'm looking at you, Oracle. Oracle, ticker symbol Oscar Roger Christopher Larry, ORCL, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the debt or the equity of that particular company. They had a big week. I mean, holy smokes, did they have a big week, especially when you're talking about a company that is the age that Oracle is. We're talking about a 30-year plus company here. They moved 35% in a day. I mean, a single day. And they're bumping up against, now they pulled back a little bit, but they were bumping up against $1 trillion in terms of market cap. I think they're down now at about 870, maybe 890 at this point. They pulled back off of the ultimate highs they had a little bit earlier this week, but up about 35% this week, and they had a blowout quarter. No doubt about it. Very significantly above market expectations, but perhaps most importantly, above that, were their projections going forward, meaning that the amount of AI-related, both infrastructure and cloud-based kinds of offerings that they're going to be having, and then also the announcement of a $300 billion with a B billion-dollar contract with OpenAI. And right now, if you're connected with OpenAI or just about anything of significance with AI, the market, for the most part, is looking very favorably upon you. Happened with Oracle, 35% a day. That is spectacular. I mean, that is, again, sometimes with newer companies or even on IPO day when they first go public, you'll see some crazy kind of moves like that. For a company, again, a mature company like Oracle, especially bumping up against $1 trillion of market cap, that's very unusual. So I had to bring that up there. For a moment, when it was at its zenith there, when it hit the absolute high here a couple of days ago, it made Larry Ellison, the co-founder and past CEO, it made Larry Ellison the richest person on the planet as measured by equity holdings. And so it was up there above Elon Musk there for a while. Pulled back a little bit. Like I said, the stock pulled back a little bit. So I think he might be in second or possibly third at this point. But not that he would recognize it. I'm pretty sure he's still going to pick up the tab at dinner and clear the electric bill for this month. But still an amazing kind of move. He's still a 45% owner of Oracle stock outstanding. So he's by far and away still the largest shareholder. So a kind of move like that is going to have a very significant impact on his net worth in a given week. So kudos to you. It's a reason to celebrate, Larry, in terms of that kind of move. And for Oracle, definitely putting themselves in the mix as far as all things AI discussion are concerned. They were already there. The stock had already appreciated significantly this year. Actually, even before this quarterly report, the stock was up over 40% this year. So definitely they were in the AI discussion, and the stock was being reflective of that before this even happened. But as is happening with a lot of these companies right now, significantly exceeding expectations, at least in the short run, in terms of the amount, in this case, a huge contract with OpenAI, but also in terms of their participation in all things in the AI race. And there's a lot out there right now. So we're going to keep watching them. But big company, big name, big movement here in the last couple of days. Well, friends, I'm going to catch my breath here. We're going to get ready for the fourth quarter, the last stretch here in today's show. Coming back here in a moment on Dollars and Cents here at WSIC.
Make no mistake.
Did you say steak?
We'll be back to talk more finances and food on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial on WSIC. Local starts here.
Well, we have officially once again entered that sweater in the morning and regret it in the afternoon season. Get warmer, partly cloudy, temperatures get up into the mid-80s for our Thursday afternoon. We'll go back comfy and cool tonight around the lake as temperatures go down to around 60, but we'll warm up each afternoon through the upcoming weekend into those low mid-80s and look to stay dry for a while. That's your forecast the WSIC Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. Score designer deals Tuesday through Sunday this week at the Green Jeans Consignment Sale, now at 601 Milestone Venue in Concord, formerly the Buy Low Center. It's fashion, fun, and major savings. Visit greenjeansale.com. The 500 Club in Statesville presents the Thirsty Thursdays tournament on September 11th at 5:30 p.m. Click on the 500 Club online for more information on events, golf lessons, club memberships, and tee times. The annual Bands, Brews, and Barbecue Festival, presented by Dobotech, returns to Mooresville on Saturday. The celebration of music, beer, and barbecue begins at 4 p.m. across downtown and Liberty Park. Over 20 barbecue trucks will be on hand. The B3 Beer Garden will be open with a selection of craft beers from local and regional breweries. Ghostface Brewing will have a special brew with proceeds benefiting the U.S. Olympic bobsled team. The music lineup features Dial-Up Radio, Starship, and Night Ranger. Bands, Brews, and Barbecue is Saturday in Mooresville. The NHRA 4-Wide Carolina Nationals happens at ZMAX Dragway September 19th through the 21st. This is the only 4-wide race in the countdown to the championship. Every ticket is a pit pass, giving fans unmatched access to the drivers and crews who power the NHRA's thunderous 11,000 horsepower machines to their limits. Click on charlottemotorspeedway.com for tickets and information about the NHRA 4-Wide Carolina Nationals at the Bellagio of drag strips. Stay up to date and find out about local events, job opportunities, real estate information, and more. Visit liveworkplaylkn.com and sign up for the weekly newsletter. That's liveworkplaylkn.com.
From market trends to retirement plans, Joshua Dobi has you covered. We're back with more Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial on WSIC. Local starts here.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. You're at the stretch, folks. 11 minutes, 55 seconds until we hit that 5 o'clock bell. Thank you for spending that time with us here. Thank you for listening. We're talking about all kinds of stuff. And like I said, we like to keep it fun. I mean, there's only so much that I could do on my end of things, probably because I'm an incredibly simple person. There's only so much I could do on my end of things to make Federal Reserve comments and notes sound appealing to you. So we toss in some other stuff. We tie it into the markets. We tie it into things that you might like as well. Certainly, we got a local flair with all things that we do here. Here on WSIC, but I appreciate you hanging with us here. We're going to keep talking markets, though. I do have a ton of it. This is a big one. I mean, it's a big one because of the pivot which happens periodically in the markets with regards to IPOs, initial public offerings. Just so you know, very quickly, IPOs or initial public offerings, that's when a company goes public for the first time. First day they're trading, and there are all kinds of things that are a part of that. It's usually a very exciting kind of thing, right? I mean, the reason why you're coming public is because you think there's going to be some buying intensity with your stock, and very often there is. And there's a whole literally called a roadshow aspect of things before you actually begin trading. I mean, you're talking to investment bankers, and you're talking to market makers, and you're talking to other institutions, and talking about allocations of stock that they can sell to their clients if they're part of the subscription team. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. The real reason why I'm bringing it up, though, I'm looking at it, as you can probably guess, from a more pragmatic aspect of things, because we get a lot of questions about it. We get a lot of questions as a company or a particular company is getting ready to become public. Hey, can we buy some of this? Or can we buy it at the open on day one? Or can we, is there any way to be as part of the subscription team or be a part of the initial allocation even before it starts trading? And we talk through all those kinds of things. And all of that is good. It's an appropriate kind of discussion point. Not that it's the best thing for everybody. Of course it isn't. You hear me say that all the time here on Dollars and Cents. But it's healthy. It's let's have the conversation. Let's talk about why it may not make sense for you or for consideration. But I want to bring up a couple of them here. And yeah, it's going to sound negative. I'll tell you that in advance. It's going to sound like, all right, you're only bringing out the ones that haven't done well. No, I'm not doing that. I'm really providing what I'm going to say next as a countermeasure to what sometimes is this hyper euphoric, utopic look at IPOs, especially in a hotter market like what we've had here in 2025. So let's just talk some numbers first on IPOs, so meaning the initial public offerings in this year. In 2025, right around 144, according to my numbers, 144 IPOs which have been priced. Now, we haven't had 144 come public yet. Still got another quarter and some change related to the rest of the year, but there have been priced. They are ready to go, if you will. That's a 50% increase in a year, meaning 50% higher than what we had there in 2024. And it's a full 100% increase or more than 100% increase over what we had there in 2022. 2022 was a down market, so that's understandable that that would be the case. So when we're looking at that, that tends to be a variable, just a, not the variable, certainly not the only variable when we're looking at it, of consumer, specifically investor sentiment, meaning more IPOs coming to the market, generally speaking, can be one variable of indication about the fact that there is buyer enthusiasm, there is buyer intent, there is buyer desire to be a participant in a new company, a company that has not been public previously, meaning not publicly available for sale. Now, there have been a number of big ones out there. You've heard us talk about Uber. You've heard us talk about any of a number of payment processing companies. Got another one today, or things AI related, technology related. I mean, all kinds of ones out there. You've heard us talk about here on Dollars and Cents on previous shows. What I'm going to talk about next, though, is really intended to be just a word of caution. Because, again, it gets a little utopic, it gets a little euphoric, and then you can get sideways pretty quickly. And that's really what I want to talk about here. So first I'm going to look at one of the ones that just went public here in the last couple of days, and it is Klarna. So ticker symbol Kelly Larry Alpha Roger, KLAR, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the debt or the equity, especially now that it's publicly traded. Kind of an interesting side note, anecdotally, with regards to Klarna. Klarna's over 20 years old as a company. They haven't been public more than a couple of days, but they're over 20 years old as a company, and that's somewhat unusual. Usually these companies have been in existence, let's say anywhere from a couple of years to maybe 6, 7, 8, rarely 10 do I see. This company haven't been in existence for 20 years before they went public. Relatively unusual would be the best way to describe that. They're an online payment processor. They started out in the $40 to $45 per share range whenever they came online in terms of the first day of being traded. So some euphoria, they're up about 16, 18% on day one. So not crazy in terms of the huge appreciation that you sometimes see with these other companies. I'm going to be talking about a couple of them here in a minute as well. But Klarna came out about $40 to $45, $17 billion valuation in the public markets once they became public, which again sounds amazing, and it is. It really is amazing. Until you look at what the valuation was during part of their time as a private company. And the ways that you can determine that is that as they release data as a private company in terms of large investments by, say, institutions or buyer groups into that, they obviously have to do a valuation in doing that so that you can see, okay, if we're buying $100 million of this company, what percentage of the company is that at the time that we make the purchase? So you have to do a company-wide valuation. Well, I'm saying that to say, all right, so in the public markets, about a $17 billion valuation at this point. Again, very impressive by any measure. Until you look at what a private investment made into them in 2021, so 4 years ago, valued them not at $17 billion but at $45 billion. So if you were the one or you were the ones or you were part of that buyer group there back in 2021 when you made that investment at a $45 billion valuation, and now in the public markets, the entire company is trading at about $17 billion. Well, folks, that's not a good way to go. That's not the direction where you want to be heading. About a 60% decrease in valuation there. That's a hit on the head. And that's over 4 years. Now, you can say, well, it was way over its skis there in 2021, and now it's kind of getting a little shot of reality that it's on the public markets. Yeah, I would agree with you. But there were a lot of participants in that buy-in there 4 years ago. A lot of big names, a lot of big private equity, a lot of big institutions who were in at that level. I'm saying that as a word of caution. So that sometimes when folks say, hey, I want to buy it on the first day it comes out, I want to buy the shares, and absolutely. Sometimes what I'll recommend, though, is maybe we just wait a little bit. maybe we let some of the fervor die down a little bit. Let's let that stock price cool off a little bit. Maybe even it comes back here a little bit. Also, what happens, a little bit of a sidebar here, that often there are lockups on some of the major shareholders whenever the stock first goes public. That can be as long as 6 to 12 months. And then once that 6 to 12 months period is passed, for those significant shareholders, they are then able to sell their shares if they would like to do that on the open market. That sometimes can have a depressing effect on the stock price because you got this flood of new supply in terms of the number of shares that are on the market there. So sometimes I'll say to folks, let's wait 6 months, or let's wait 8 months, or let's wait 15 months to kind of see where it is. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the price is going to go down. It does not. It's just a word of caution. Take a look at it. Maybe don't get caught up too much in the excitement, at least not on day one, but rather take your time, take a look at it, maybe let the price come in a little bit. Don't just get caught up in the wave of euphoria about what that particular company coming public is. Now, does that mean it's wrong to get excited? No, it's not wrong to get excited at all. But it is wrong to let that excitement dictate what a prudent financial choice is, because sometimes you can make a short-term decision which can have long-term negative ramifications, and you want to try to minimize that as much as possible. So, talking Klarna there, that's just a point of caution on that. A couple of other ones that are out there as well. I'm looking at you, Circle, and yeah, they are all things AI related. That are out there. Ticker symbol Charlie Roger, Charlie Larry. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the debt or equity of Circle. I mean, they're still up. I mean, in a lot of ways, they're still up from what their previous valuations were. But they were up over when they first traded on the stock exchange. First day, their price increased over 100%. 100% one day. Holy smokes! I mean, double your money in one day. I mean, it's amazing when you think about it. I mean, it's just unbelievable in terms of buying intensity. But now what's happened after a couple weeks, couple months, things have cooled off a little bit. Other things are hitting the news headlines. Now Circle is below where it was trading at its first price on day one. So if you were one of the ones that bought it at the peak there, it's been a pretty miserable process if you're still holding on to it right now. Just a word of caution. Another one, similar camp, Figma. We talked about it on Dollars and Cents here several weeks ago when it went public. Ticker symbol Frank Indian Green, FIG. Not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the debt or equity there either, but also up over 100% on day one. You even heard me talk about it that week. I mean, I was talking about just how intense it was, meaning in terms of the appreciation in the stock price in just a couple of days, up over 100%. Now, again, the stock price trading below where it was at the first trade on day one. So again, if you bought at the peak there, pretty miserable process, at least to this point. Now, does that mean that Circle and Figma and Klarna are bad stocks or going to do terrible as companies? No, I'm not saying that at all. The intent of what I'm saying here is to just provide a word of caution about what can happen whenever we make decisions into too much excitement. Meaning when excitement becomes our primary driver, or we get, let's say, an unnatural sort of emotional connection. Maybe we really like the company or we really like the story or all of that. I completely understand all of that. That may or may not be a reason why you want to buy or own or to sell that particular equity or debt. That's really the point that I'm sharing with you here. It's just to be cautious. You hear me talk about being cautious all the time here on Dollars and Cents. That's intentional. I mean, it's easy to get excited, right? Those things are fun. You know, kind of like when I get a plate of barbecue in front of me. I get really excited. I do, and I don't think about the fact that I probably don't need to eat all that plate of barbecue on my plate at that time. But I do anyhow, and then I regret it probably about 2 hours later. It happens, right? Those kinds of things happen. But it's a word of caution when you're looking at your plan, you're looking at your portfolio, make sure you make your decisions for the right reasons. Friends, as always, I appreciate so much you hanging with us here on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. Tune in with us next week, Thursdays at 4 p.m. here on WSIC.
Serving you better than ever before. WSIC, Statesville, W290DK Mooresville, W260